Moses returned from exile. He confronted Pharaoh with a very important command from God: "Let my people go." But Pharaoh, who was very stubborn, said, "No." He didn't care that the Israelites were suffering, so God sent 10 plagues to Egypt. The first plague, the Nile River, where all the water came from, turned into blood. The water became red and thick. People couldn't drink or use the water, but Pharaoh didn't change his mind. Then God sent a plague of frogs. They came from the river and were everywhere. The noise from all the frogs was super loud, but Pharaoh still didn't listen. After the frogs, God sent a plague of lice. They were everywhere, everyone itchy, even the animals. It was really uncomfortable. People tried to get rid of them, but it was impossible. Even in this discomfort, Pharaoh's mind was still not changed. Then the 4th plague hit, and wild animals started showing up everywhere. They went into people's houses and walked around the streets, making everything scary and messy. But eventually, with all this trouble, Pharaoh still wouldn't change his mind. Then come 5th plague. Sickness hit all the animals like cows, sheep, and horses. They got so sick that they died. This was a big problem for the Egyptians who needed these animals. People were very heartbroken, but Pharaoh was still as stubborn as before. Then comes the painful 6th plague, boils, really bad sores that popped up on everyone's skin. It hurt a lot, made people struggle, and made it hard to move. It was a constant reminder of God's punishment. Even with all this pain, Pharaoh's heart was still hard. Next, God sent the plague of huge hailstorm. This wasn't just regular hail. It was huge chunks of ice mixed falling from the sky. It crushed anyone or anything outside. Egypt had never seen such a violent storm, but Pharaoh still wouldn't budge. After the hail, God sent the 8th plague, locusts. They came in a giant swarm and ate up everything green that was left. But Pharaoh was still stubborn and would not change his mind. Then the 9th plague of darkness come. It was no ordinary darkness. It was so dark that you couldn't see anything at all for 3 whole days. People were scared, but still, Pharaoh didn't change his mind. And lastly, the worst plague arrived. It was the saddest night in Egypt. The firstborn child in every family, and even the firstborn of the Pharaoh, died. From the smallest house in Egypt to Pharaoh's big palace, everyone was sad and crying. This was the moment when Pharaoh's heart finally changed. He told Moses, "Take your people and leave Egypt." So Moses led the Israelites away from their life of hardship towards freedom. We learn from this story that God will always set us free from what holds us captive and set us out to true freedom and deliverance.